Hi, welcome back to week 18 of J2L Wk discipleship. We're going to take the next couple of weeks to talk about, what is God's requirement for us and how we should respond in times of crisis. Because the book of J2L actually gives us the clearest instructions and the very specific requirement that God is looking for. Primarily comes from J2L chapter 1, verse 13 and 14, which we're going to talk about briefly today. And the second one is J2L chapter 2, verse 12 to verse 17. Obviously, J2L chapter 1, verse 13 and 14 specifically is an exhortation for spiritual leaders, but the principle applies to everyone, far beyond just spiritual leaders, but for everyone in the body of Christ. If you read J2L chapter 1, verse 13 and 14, there's a fivefold requirement that God wants us to respond. One is consecrate or fast. Two is to call a secret assembly. Three, gather the elders. Four, call every inhabitant of the land to come and pray. And the fifth one is really to cry out to God as we gather together. What is consecrate or fast? Consecrate or fast basically is setting apart time and the priorities to fast and pray. Fasting and prayer is so important. But yet, fasting and prayer cannot be separated. You don't just fast and without praying, but when you pray and fast at the same time, God does release greater grace in answering even our prayer. Of course, that is not about twisting God's arm. Fasting is about enlarging our heart so that we have greater understanding in agreeing and knowing what is His heart so that we can press in. It is so important, even in such a time as this, for us to make it a priority to fast and pray, because there's a common statement that says this: destiny of the nation is really in the hands of intercessors. How we respond in fasting and praying will determine even nations, our generation, how it will turn out, who we will turn to. So it's so important for us to consecrate a fast. Not just a few persons, not just for some intercessors, but the call is actually for everybody, specifically a spiritual leader. The second call is really to call a sacred assembly. It's important for us to have individual prayer, but it is even more important for us to gather together to pray. When we come together to pray in agreement, in unity, prayer goes to another dimension. J2L say that it's a sacred assembly. Why is it called a sacred assembly? Because it's so important. God wants us to set that specific time aside for Him so that we can come together. So we have to make it a priority. In fact, our prayer is that one day in Singapore, the body of Christ will gather to pray across denominations, across churches, mission agencies, night and day and night. We have a sacred assembly all across this island. The third one is call the elders. Leaders have to lead by example. If leaders do not come to pray, and if leaders do not get down on their knees, the church will not have a culture of prayer in our congregation. This is so important. That's why God makes it very clear. Leaders have to come. Leaders has to make it a priority. We have to lead by example. The fourth one is called every inhabitant of the land. More than just the leaders who come. Everybody has to come. We are living in such a serious time where everyone's prayer makes a difference. Everybody coming together to press in unto God. It is so vital and so important. The last requirement is cry out to God. That means we have to engage God's heart. Engage His heart in deep intercession with agreement in accordance to His heart and His will in such a time as this. These are the fivefold requirements that God is looking for to His people to respond, even in such a time as this. I pray and ask that may we individually respond and live out this requirement, and may the body of Christ understand that one day we will have a sacred assembly every day all across this island. God bless you. See you next week.